Okay, let's talk about money. I know. For a lot of us, just the thought of our finances can bring on this wave of anxiety. You've got budgets, bills, savings. It can feel like you're just treading water, trying to keep your head up.
And hey, if you feel that way, you are so not alone. Just look at this number, 58%. That means more than half of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. It's this constant cycle of money in, money out, with almost zero breathing room. This is the exact financial stress so many of us are trying to break free from.
But what if there was a simple framework to bring a little order to all that chaos? Well, that's where the 50-30-20 rule comes in. It was popularized by US Senator Elizabeth Warren, and it basically promises a super straightforward way to manage your money. No complicated spreadsheets required. Let's see how it's supposed to work.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to break down exactly what the rule is. Then, we'll dive into the big debate. Is this thing even realistic today? And finally, we'll walk through each category, using a real-world example to see how you might actually put it into practice.
Okay, so let's start with the absolute basics. What is this rule really all about?
At its core, it's a really simple percentage-based budget. You take your after-tax income, the money that actually lands in your bank account, and you split it into 3 different buckets. 50% is for your absolute needs, the essentials you just can't live without. 30% is for your wants, all the stuff that makes life enjoyable. And that last 20%, that's dedicated to your financial future. We're talking savings, investing, and paying down debt.
Now, the concept sounds great on paper, but the real world? Well, it's a lot more complicated. Which brings us to the central question pretty much everyone is asking.
This question, which we pulled right from a Reddit discussion, gets straight to the heart of the whole thing. I mean, with the cost of living, especially housing, going through the roof in so many places, can anyone actually stick to these numbers? It's a really valid and crucial point.
And this quote just brilliantly lays out the kind of trade-offs people are having to make. This user points out that sometimes your biggest need, a safe place to live, can just completely devour more than 50% of your income. It forces this choice between following some rule and, ensuring your own personal safety.
But here's a fascinating counter-argument from another user. They suggest that maybe we're focusing on the wrong numbers. The line between needs and wants can get kind of blurry, right? But the 20% for savings, that part's non-negotiable. This totally reframes the rule. It's less of a rigid system and more of a flexible guide with one primary goal: make sure you're securing your future.
Now that is a powerful idea. To see if it's possible and to really get a handle on the flexibility here, we have to get really honest about the categories themselves. So let's start with the biggest piece of the pie, mastering your 50% needs. Okay, this slide forces a moment of truth. Needs are the absolute must-haves: rent, basic groceries, utilities, insurance. Wants are basically everything else, from your Netflix subscription to your morning coffee. The line can get blurry, can't it? The real key to making this rule work is to be kind of ruthless in separating the two. Let's make this real, okay? Meet John. He's a recent college grad, just started his first full-time job. This slide breaks down his essential monthly expenses. These are the non-negotiable costs he has to cover just to live and work. And when you do the math, his total of $1,760 comes out to almost exactly 50% of his monthly take-home pay. So for John, in his specific situation, hitting that first target is totally achievable. But what about the fun stuff? Let's see how his wants stack up. All right, this is the fun part. This is the category that's all about your quality of life and your personal choices. This is where we really see John's personality in his budget. Golfing is his big passion, so he allocates a pretty big chunk of his wants budget there. But notice how he balances it. A cheaper gym, some other entertainment. This is a perfect example of how a budget is really just about making conscious choices that line up with what you actually care about. And here's where the magic happens. The rule allocates 30% for his wants, but John only spent about 22%. Just by being intentional, he's created a surplus. This isn't about restriction, it's about being in control. And that extra cash, it's now just more fuel for his financial future.
And that brings us to the final, and you could argue, the most important bucket of them all.
This is where John pays himself first. Before a single dollar went to golf or video games, this 20% was already set aside. He's splitting his $706.55 across 3 really key areas: investing for retirement, building up an emergency fund, and hammering away at his student loans. This is exactly why that Reddit user said the 20% is all that really matters. This bucket does two critical things at once. It's your safety net for today, for those unexpected car repairs or medical bills, and it's the ladder you're climbing to reach your long-term goals, like retirement or buying a home.
If you ever need motivation to focus on that 20%, this chart is it. This is the magic of compound interest. Your money earning money, and then that money earning even more money. It's like a snowball effect. A small, consistent investment early in your career can grow into a massive sum. That $300 a month John is saving, it isn't just $300. It's the seed for his future financial freedom.
So how can you make this work for you? It really starts with these 4 steps. First, know your real income. Second, be brutally honest with yourself about what's a need and what's a want. Third, track where your money is actually going. And most importantly, remember, this is a guide, not a straitjacket. You have to be flexible.
So what's the bottom line here? The 50-30-20 rule isn't some pass or fail test. For some people, especially in high cost of living areas, the percentages might look more like 60-20-20. And you know what? That's okay. The real goal isn't to perfectly hit these numbers. It's to be intentional with your money, to understand your priorities, and to consistently put money toward your future.
So I'll just leave you with this one question. It's not about overhauling your entire life overnight. It's about small, consistent actions. What is one tiny adjustment you can make today to power up your future?